Welcome to the Bulldog State of Mind podcast, brought to you by the Fresno State Staff Assembly Executive Committee. Here are your hosts, Belinda Munoz and Melissa Norris.
All right, so welcome to the podcast, Georgiana. We're excited to have you. We know you are still fairly new to your current position as our Organizational Development Manager, but you also have a long history of passion when it comes to the topic of mental health and wellness, and where you've done a lot of work on promoting this topic to our students, but now also to our staff and faculty. So we're excited to have you here today.
Absolutely, yes. I keep referring to myself as a baby MPP. But then have had many years on this campus, definitely supporting student mental health and wellness services. When I worked at the Student Health and Counseling Center, I'm an alum of Fresno State. I got my bachelor's and my master's here in psychology, so just kind of long integrated into our campus. And then even when I was supporting student health, I was very involved with the union and other kind of task forces where I really kind of had that opportunity to start using my voice to advocate for staff and faculty and manager wellness. And so that's why it's really exciting to be in this role now. And what I learned over the years is it was great supporting student mental health, but I've noticed staff and faculty and managers kind of needed that too. And so I saw this opportunity to fill this great niche and was excited to have that chance to do so now.
Well, Fresno State is lucky to have you in this position. We're excited to have you here on A Bulldog State of Mind. Like Belinda mentioned, we're really talking about this idea of setting ourselves up for success. I think for me, each time I go into a new semester, but especially during the new academic year, it's kind of that blank slate. It's the opportunity to address maybe challenges from the past, to look at things with a fresh perspective and kind of a blank slate. So talk to us a little bit about how you personally approach the start of a new academic year.
Yeah, it's kind of essentially this is like our New Year's Eve kind of season, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's definitely a great opportunity to kind of reset or set. But I also kind of have been really focused on, how to be strategic. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've been really focused on lately is energy management. Unlike time, which is finite, there's only so much of it. Energy can be expanded, it can be refreshed, and it can be renewed. So I think when we kind of shift to kind of thinking about, our energy levels, then it kind of changes how we then will look at, setting ourselves up for success, what sort of ways we're going to structure our days, and what sort of activities and resources are we going to take advantage of, kind of with that mindset of energy management. And a lot of that has to do with, everybody's different and kind of tracking and kind of understanding, what your level of energy is, and when and what things replenish it and refresh it, and when you're kind of feeling drained, and when you can strategically kind of place and make choices that are going to help balance and to be sure that you can feel good, not just productive, but feel good and feel good about being productive. Right?
Yeah. I love that because it's so true. I think we focus so much on that idea of time management and time management, not knocking time management. I think it's great to have that mindfulness about it, but it's also so much about how we structure our day. And I like that you touched upon that because I think we all kind of organically have that time of the day that we hit that slump where we're all headed to Starbucks to try to rejuvenate and get through the rest of the day. And maybe that's my energy management talking. I'm not sure. At least my caffeine management talking. But I love that idea of kind of how do we structure things differently and approach our days differently too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So we briefly spoke in our last episode about the fact that when we come to work, we wear all kinds of hats, right? It's getting out of the house in the morning and getting to work, and then, that kind of sets us up for the day. And it also is, we're not just our titles, right? We're not just what we are at home. We're not just what we are at work. We're a person individually. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we show up and embrace bringing our whole self to work.
Absolutely. So, I think it's just, that acknowledgement first, that the things that we experience both at home and the things we experience at work, we can't always kind of leave those things at the door. But I think it's also about, again, how you set yourself up and how you kind of give yourself space to acknowledge that and kind of, again, make those choices for giving yourself grace either direction. Like I'm going to come to work and I have something going on, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of consider how am I going to give myself the space that I need, or what ways am I going to reach out to the support that I need in order to make this possible, or in what ways am I going to explore the options of services that are available in order to make this time, depending on what level of difficulty it is, more manageable for myself. And then kind of vice versa, what am I going to do, kind of to get, on my way home, maybe on that drive home, or on that transition into the weekend, where I can then be fully present with my loved ones or with the things that I love, and kind of, can give my whole self in both directions. So it's like, what kind of things do we need to consider to give our whole selves in both directions? And in what ways, again, can we give ourselves that grace and forgiveness, knowing that we're human, and that, there's always going to be these moments, where things, will happen, and we can't always predict, which way it's going to go, and which kind of elements in our circumstances are going to kind of bring out those life experiences. I think for me personally, this kind of it kind of happens in two ways. Like initially, where I had participated in a women's campus connection luncheon many years ago, and so this is kind of almost like a simultaneous plug for going to things, as well as kind of knowing that your whole self is going to come to work. And so it had been a couple of years, when I attended this workshop, this luncheon. It had been a couple of years after my father passed away. And at that luncheon, we were asked to write. We were asked to write about something difficult. And so I wrote about the day my dad died. And I think what was so powerful about that moment is I realized that for that full 2 years, I didn't feel that loss. And in that moment, I was able to feel that loss. And that led me down this wonderful journey of learning how to utilize expressive writing in order to help process what I'd been through. It connected me to a community of other expressive writers, and I regularly attend this, it's an outside community organization called Coffee and Grief, but we regularly write and share stories. But if I hadn't initially gone to that event on campus, I might not have discovered that tool. And now had it open all these wonderful doors for all these amazing connections and this new great tool where I'm even trying to develop my writings and express my relationship with my father, as well as trying to use that to put it together to submit some of my writings and possibly put a book together. And that whole journey wouldn't have started if I maybe hadn't have gone to that event that was offered here on campus. And so I think that's kind of my plug for go to things. You never know where it's going to lead you, or what amazing tool or great connections you're going to make there, and how that's going to transform your life. But also that kind of recognizing that I call my grief that undertow that's constantly there, and so there's all sorts of things at any moment that can suddenly bring that grief to the surface. And for my personal self, I've learned to just give it a few moments of space, even if that means I'm going to cry at work, and that's okay. Or I'm going to go for a walk and kind of take in nature, or I'm going to take a break, or I'm going to schedule some time. This is obviously something I need to give some space to. Let me make a plan for how I'm going to give this some space. This evening or this weekend. And so, so that's kind of my personal example of kind of how I, encourage and myself and others to kind of recognize your whole self goes with you everywhere.
And your office is the first contact to our new hires. So someone new coming to campus, and you guys providing that friendly face and sharing all the great things that campus has to offer for your new hires. I mean, and then say, okay, here you go, and send them off to our offices. So thank you guys for doing that, because that's very important, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really want new staff to know that they belong from day one, and that we're to be here continuing to support them along their journey.
Well, you spoke a little bit about the development side of things, and obviously your role in particular does a lot to support the personal and professional development of our employees. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the ways you guys do that?
Wow, okay, so let me unroll the scroll of things that... So it's what I really kind of love, what I've always loved is resources, and that there's just so many options, and that in a combination of things at my office, the campus, and system-wide, there really is going to be an option for kind of every style and every schedule, which I really love. And I think that's really helpful given that so many of us had such varied schedules and varied styles of how we like to learn and the types of things we like to engage in. And so, certainly with our office, we offer a variety of trainings. The best way to find out about all of these trainings, so it's like, well, if it's system-wide and it's campus and it's you guys, like, am I checking multiple places? No, you actually just have to check one place. And that's in our Human Resources and Organizational Development calendar. And so that calendar does get sent out in an email newsletter twice a month on the 1st and roughly 15th of each month. But the calendar is always available on our website, where we'll list not only on-campus events and activities that are taking place, and even those on-campus ones will be a combination of both in-person and virtual, but also the system-wide trainings that are offered, whether they're cross-campus collaboration workshops, or whether they're kind of offered through the CSU. Those are available, but then there's also kind of that DIY level of training. So I'm really big about, I really want to let folks know that CSU Learn is not just for compliance workshops. It's not for those required mandatory ones. It's like, yes, I got to do that again. Yes, you have to do that again, which I'm here to support with those things too. So as the CSU Learn administrator, if you're having challenges with those courses, I'm here to help you figure that out and troubleshoot any issues with those. But knowing that CSU Learn has so much more in it than just those compliance trainings. It has videos, it has webinars. Those CSU Got Talent workshops, I never seem to be available when they're offered, but all of the past recordings are available to watch through CSU Learn platform. So you can go back and watch those. Again, it has Skillsoft trainings, things that you can do kind of at your own pace on your own time, which I think is really great. A variety of topics. There's like 40,000 different resources that are in there. And again, a variety, some of them as short as 20 minutes in CSU Learn, or even shorter. There's these new AI simulators where you can kind of practice, how to have conversations in various scenarios to build up some business and leadership skills. So there's really a variety of options at, different, types of ways it's delivered, different lengths of time. And you can even use the filters to search for it by duration, by the length of time, depending on how much time you have. And so that, again, CSU Learn also has things like books and audiobooks. I'm a big fan of books, and so when I want a book, I want too many books to actually buy them. And so when I want a book, I check the library, I check the Fresno State Library, the county library, I check the Libby app, and now I check CSU Learn to see if it's available.
Yeah. Well, and I love that it's not just professional development, right? I think, again, a lot of times we associate it as it needs to be professional development, but I mean, you guys offer things like the fitness classes at lunch, and I'm particularly very excited about that. I'm signed up for the HIIT classes this semester, but I think those are really unique opportunities for us to maximize our lunch break and squeeze in. I know as a mom, it is really hard for me to find time to work out. I come home, I got to deal with all the after school stuff, I got to make dinner, I got to do laundry, I'm juggling all those other things. So knowing that I can do that here on campus, that there's an instructor that's going to kind of guide me through that I can do it with colleagues and have fun doing those kinds of things. Those are also really unique too, and I'm not sure enough people know and realize that they can access things like that too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I'm excited about it because that means it's like I get to go straight home after work rather than going to the gym, and that that opens up my evening. And so it's nice having those lunchtime activity classes that'll be offered through the semester, and there'll be 3 different types of options: the HIIT, the Pilates, and the Body Flow. And so those are available too for folks to take advantage of.
Talk about embracing your whole self, right? Again, being able to kind of bring that into the picture during work hours on your lunch break. I think that's wonderful.
And I think it's not just, kind of professional development, like the traditional stuff is great. But even when, we talk about professional development theory, we talk about, how so much of it is experiential and then social, and how much we can learn and gain through kind of on-site experience, on-job experience, and connecting with others. And that extends to the fun stuff too, right? The mixers, the Red Fridays, those opportunities you have to connect with colleagues and meet people you might not have met, and maybe strike up a conversation that possibly can lead back to work and something that you can work on together or collaborate on together, or maybe you just learn about a great life tip that you can then translate and take back to your home, something to help get your kids into college, or something that's going to help help you tap into a community resources that's going to kind of maybe help address something that you're dealing with out, in your life outside of work. And that's all going to contribute to that balance of being able to kind of be well and present in both spaces of your life. And, again, being at that Red Friday event might have been the moment that you had that conversation and you learned about that resource, because again, you never know.
Well, and we've talked a lot about, obviously, your former roles on campus have definitely prioritized and been all about wellness and mental health. But I happen to know personally you are definitely someone who I make sure that wellness is present in your day-to-day. I mean, if anybody on campus has ever seen Georgiana on her walks, she's constantly walking around campus. She's got an indoor, in the campus building kind of walk for when it's way too hot, which is very often over the summers. Talk to us a little bit about kind of some of the ways that you integrate wellness on a daily basis so that you make sure you fit it in. Because I know it's hard. We've talked about that before. It's tough to find the time for that.
Well, I think it's, it's something that I've honed over years, and that I'm also constantly honing and evolving over the summer. We read a book called Rest, and it really talked about structuring your time, and I think I combine that with a lot of the energy management, kind of philosophy that I've been getting into more recently, and kind of learning about these strategies of blocking your time, excuse me. So blocking your time and this concept of ultradian sprints, and how kind of sitting down to do a focused 90 or 120 minutes of work, and then following that up with a break. So I've actually recently integrated that Pomodoro technique, and so which is, there could be a 25 minutes, 5-minute break, or they have 15-minute, 10-minute break timers that you can utilize. There's a lot of different Pomodoro technique timers that are available for free online. So I like to usually utilize those. And, we certainly have like our set break time. And so really it's just about like, well, how much time am I going to focus on this one project? I've also tried to do things like minimize distraction, and even part of minimizing distraction for me is scheduling time to answer those emails and those Google Chats. So that way when I'm sitting and I'm focusing on that project, I'll hear the ding of the Google Chat and be like, no, I have this time carved out to respond to this thing. I can keep focusing on this. It's not perfect, but it helps. That way I can stay, again, focused on that particular, technique or that task, right? And then know that I have that time scheduled till later. And then how I utilize those breaks isn't always necessarily, I'm leaving my desk. Sometimes it's just switching, using that opportunity to switch on things. Sometimes I do use it for things that are going to replenish or refresh. Maybe it is going for a walk. Or it could be things where I'm just going to shift and do, maybe reorganize things on my desk. For me, having an organized desk space really helps contribute to my ability to focus and to feel well in my office. Or maybe I'm going to get up and stretch my legs or do a stretch, run in place, all these different things that I could just kind of incorporate for a few minutes, and then kind of, get back to the next task that I have time blocked for. So those are some of the techniques I've been trying lately. In kind of blocking my time, setting projects, setting time where I'm going to work on specific things, working on things that are more, for my energy flow and my style of work, doing the more creative things in the morning, and then doing those administrative things when I don't have as much brain power. But I've also been utilizing ChatGPT to help me brainstorm, and other AI tools. Where it's like I know what I want to say, but my brain doesn't have the energy left to put together into coherent sentences. So I'm like, okay, make this coherent, ChatGPT. So I think it's definitely taking advantage of the tools. But again, part of that is understanding your style and levels of work, and then how you can be strategic and structured with how you kind of plan things. There's this new. It's also this new thing that I've been doing for the last 2 months that I've really felt has been a great kind of tool for myself. And it combines a lot of different things that folks might have been kind of familiar with or heard about. So at the end of every week, I block time for reflection. Whether it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes is actually a sufficient amount of time. And I make it a meeting, so that means nothing else can get scheduled at that time. And I kind of reflect back on my week. I think about, when did I feel at my best? Some of the other prompt questions are, what techniques did I try or strategies did I try, both wellness and productivity and energy management tasks did I try? How did they make me feel? What strategies am I going to try next week? Counting my wins. And I feel like that one's really been helpful, because sometimes at the end of the week, I feel like this was not a good week and I'm not feeling great about how it went. But when I get myself to think about what were my wins, and I don't just include wins at work, I include wins like in life. Like when I got the phone I wanted to buy for half off during the Prime days, that was like huge. I was like, that was so exciting. Or when I found the glass that my partner broke in the thrift store, that it's the exact same glass, I was so excited about that. I know, silly examples, but it was like a big win. Or, again, successfully completing a training, or the new employee welcome breakfast, things I'd been working on for time, successfully completing Star Day, for the first time with an abridged amount of time. So these things, I count these wins, and I think that more than anything is that moment where I realized, wow, this was actually a much better week than I thought. And I think that helps me so much go into the weekend going, okay, I was successful this week, and that just puts me in a better state of mind for me to go into the weekend. And that last question is, how can I go into my weekend well? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just doing that exercise alone helps me go into my weekend well. It does help me, think about, what sort of things do I want to do so I can be engaged and be present with my loved ones and with the things that I love, over the weekend. And it also gives me an opportunity to give myself grace, where like sometimes it does mean I'm going to be taking work home. I'm certainly not advocating for it. I'm advocating for using all the strategies so that doesn't have to happen. But for me, it's like not getting down on myself if that does happen. Mm-hmm. And that, for me as an exempt worker, sometimes that's the project, or sometimes me wanting to do the project at a certain standard or level, that I'm choosing that, and I'm making that choice and actively making the choice, and again, give myself that grace that that's okay for me. And so whatever kind of, sometimes that grace for you is like, I'm not going to think about any of this stuff, and I'm not taking anything home, and that's awesome. Like, power to you for that grace. And I'm working towards using those strategies so that I can have that, that idea of like having that focused time where you're working on tasks. Because I do a lot of distraction, I get distracted, and I switch tasks, and they say you can lose like 25% of your productivity on the original task. And so for me, really working on honing that skill of, having focused, time blocked, task focused. Mm-hmm. That way I can, get into a situation where, since, I'm not losing that productivity, and I can then, not have as much stuff into work or nothing that I'm taking into the weekend. Wouldn't that be great? And again, that's kind of like some of my own personal goals that I'm working towards. So
I love it.
The Transformation Challenge, was what it was previously called, is returning. So this was a team-based challenge where folks can, create a team, or you can even participate individually, where there's going to be daily and weekly challenges, things where you can use points, where you can win points or earn points. There we go, earn points. And just participate in activities that focus on kind of physical wellness, nutrition-based wellness, social wellness, as well as mental health wellness too. So that's really about it's a whole self program for sure, and it has the elements of connecting with your fellow colleagues and connecting with your team. We're going to rename it, so we're actually going to call it, so like new and announced first here, we're going to call it the Red Wave Wellness Challenge. And so we're even rebranding it and giving it a fresh new name, and really also kind of modifying it a little bit. So, we really want to champion that all those types of wellness are equally as valuable. And so, how can we then recognize the teams and individuals who are doing really great in each category of wellness? Like, who's really rocking the social wellness? Mm-hmm. Who's really rocking, the nutrition wellness? Who's really rocking the mental health wellness, and then the physical wellness? So, what are those champions? And again, each one of those things is valuable, and each one of those things we will each individually be like better at excelling at. So just want to kind of acknowledge and recognize, our individual passions for wellness. So yeah, so the Transformation Challenge, now Red Wave Challenge, is a Red Wave Wellness Challenge is one of the things I'm super excited about bringing back. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm excited about it.
I can't wait for it to come back.
It's been a while since I've done it, so maybe this is my year to start it all over again.
Right. We hope so, yeah. We hope to bring back not only the folks who participated in the previous Wellness Challenge, but also, get some new folks on board for seeing kind of the value in incorporating wellness, and knowing that when, those are some of the things that you can take that time, but get that energy back. And that really can help with, your flow when you're working on things. And that's another really great strategy to employ.
And the Benefits and Wellness Expo is coming coming up too, right?
Yes. And so the Benefits and Wellness Expo is actually going to be coming up in September. And that's where we actually will have an opportunity for folks, if they haven't already, to sign up for the Wellness Challenge. But it's really also an opportunity to be aware of all of those services and resources that are there to support your wellness as a chance. That's certainly, it's, in the lead up to open enrollment season. And it can help give you that information you need to maybe pick and choose, the plans and the resources that are going to best suit your needs. And it's a way to kind of, have a space where you can ask those questions to really kind of explore and even, kind of learn about some of the perks. I think like some of the perks of each, the medical packages is some of the things that people aren't always aware of. Like one of the things I learned about Kaiser is that folks that have Kaiser can have access to the Calm app for free. And I didn't know that. For my own particular, the Blue Shield, they have it where you complete an annual health assessment each year. It takes like maybe 15-20 minutes, and you get $100 worth of gift cards that you can access. And I know that United Health has a program as well where you can earn gift cards for participating in wellness activities. So they want to again encourage and support those prevention activities and exercises and things that people can take advantage of and reward that. And so that's that opportunity to kind of learn about, beyond the cost, that is an important thing to consider, what other things and benefits and perks does each of these packages have, as well as other community resources that can help, kind of support your wellness that you would have access to. For me, I accessed chiropractic health, and it was through attending the Benefits and Wellness Expo that I identified the chiropractor that was right for me. And so I think it's just another great opportunity to kind of have one space and place and time where you can go to learn about those things instead of calling individually and finding out about each one of those things individual, which who has the time for that? No one has the time for that. No one has the time for that. Even with energy management, there's no time for that.
Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. We really enjoyed having you and sharing all the great things that Human Resource is doing, sharing all the great things that you are doing in your, I guess it's still considered a new role, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Baby MPP, still on Baby.
That's right, Baby MPP. I might call you that from now on. Hey, Baby MPP.
At least for the first year. Baby's a favorite first year at least.
Well, that was nice having Georgiana with us this
Yes.
morning, and talking about all the great things. I'm actually really looking forward to the Wellness Challenge. I really think I'm going to grab a team together and get that going. I might even just, every month that I come in, I'll just talk about maybe what we've done and where we're at.
I like that.
I've done it in the past, and I felt that it was holding yourself accountable, right?
Yes.
You had to
Yeah.
enter your information and
Yep, I
maybe
know.
maybe even attending some of these classes on my lunch hour.
I think it would be fun. See, we're going to have to help keep each other accountable in this. I
Yes.
know Georgiana, what she didn't mention is that Georgiana and I both were on a team together, and we won twice for the team challenge, for the wellness challenge. So not that my competitive side is coming up, but I'm excited. I don't think she'll be able to be my teammate anymore. I think that might be a conflict of interest. But I mean, we had nights where it was like your 10,000 step goal, and we'd be texting each other, sitting at the side of our beds, running in place, just trying to get to our 10,000 steps to make sure we could earn our points for the day. So I think it's true. It's a fun way to make sure that you are fitting these things in. I know in the past there was like those mindful moments and things like that where it was like, oh, what have I done for that mindfulness? So it's a nice little check and balance. I'm excited that it's coming back. I'm excited for the new vision of the Red Wave Wellness Challenge. And I like this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I've been missing it, so I can't wait for that to come back. She shared a lot of really great tips. I think some of the things that I'm taking away personally, I love that she talked about that reflection piece at the end of the week. I can't tell you how often I'll get to the end of the week and I'm just exhausted. And it's like I'm going home just tired. But man, talk about the energy you might gain from sitting there and really taking the time to acknowledge the good things that happened that week. I mean, I do this, it's funny because I do this with my kids at night where we'll sit there and say like, what was the best part of your day? What was the highlight of your day? What's something you're looking forward to? And essentially that's exactly what she's talking about. But applying that both personally and professionally, I feel like that's something I really want to try to do better at. I think it'd be a nice Friday afternoon activity at the end of every single week, or heck, maybe at the end of each day.
I couldn't agree more. And when she was talking about it, I was like, gosh, that is so right, because I normally at the end of the week, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't get to this.
Yes.
And I focus more on what I didn't do than what I did do.
Yeah.
And I need to give myself some grace.
Right.
And be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm tired. But look at all the things I did.
Yeah.
And yes, I have another big week coming up. But I think it'll also help me prepare. Like, I need the weekend to unwind. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Focus on home. Just get some sleep, get some rest, eat well, maybe continue your exercise or those steps over the weekend, and then tackle it the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes I don't know about you, I have sometimes those days at the end of the night where it's like I didn't get to that one thing that's now looming over me as I go into my weekend. And I found that if I can just tackle that one thing, suddenly it's like, okay, but that was the only thing that was really kind of hovering over me. And now I can fully, again, talk about that whole self. How do I be fully present when I go home to my kids at the end of the night? Right. And if I can get that one thing done, it's like there's another little win that I can add to my list, but then truly be able to be 100% present with my family when I get home. And I think that makes a world of difference too.
For me, I'm able to do that with my drive.
Yeah.
I drive into campus and it's about 35, 45 minutes, maybe more now that, we're back fully. The summers are great.
Yeah.
There's no traffic. But, that's my time.
Yeah.
To just unwind.
Yeah.
And listen to music. I love music. That's my thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other important thing is finding your thing, right?
Yeah.
I love listening to music, and it just calms me, gets me, depending on the type of music. Some of it is calming.
Yeah.
Some of it is just, getting me going for whatever's next. But nonetheless, I take that time on my drive to and from work to unwind so that I can be present wherever I'm at, whether it's in my office or it's at home. And that's important.
Yeah. And you're right. I think you have to try different things on and see how it fits. And, blasting music in the car on the way home sounds like a perfect way to kind of unwind and release. I know for me, I'm often on the phone with my mom or my sister checking in and seeing how things are going. And, oftentimes that's my reflection moment as I get to kind of talk through some things from a different perspective with my family. And even, Georgiana talked a lot about different resources and a lot of the things that we have at our fingertips that I think probably not enough staff really know exist. Right. And I know she didn't necessarily get a chance to talk about our Empathia services and our EAP counselor on campus, but I wanted to make sure we took space to talk about, because you and I have privately spoken about just what an incredible resource we have here.
Yes.
And I know I've shared personally that I've utilized the services in connecting with our EAP counselors.
As have I.
Yeah. And again, I think we don't realize what we have. But there are so many things available. So I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I know that using Empathia for me was a great resource. One, it was on campus.
Yeah.
So it was, and I remember having the conversation with someone from HR who shared with me that this was available at the time. And I had spoken to another friend, and they're like, ooh, but do you want to use somebody on campus?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I didn't have any feeling like, why not, And prior to today, or who I've shared with, nobody would have ever known I've used the service.
Yeah.
But it was convenient. It was great place for me I did it on my lunch hour. Yeah. So I would walk there, have this conversation, made me feel, get through the day for the rest of that day, and some reflection. And it was one of the best resources that I've used on campus. But and I'd love to hear your experience as well. But the other time that I used the Empathia is I had contacted them because I had some things going on with my mother-in-law when she was sick, and then her passing and all the estate information, and I didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And it was a good place for me to contact them, and they just gave me some direction
Yeah.
on these are your options. This is what you can do, and this is, here's a link, or here's a number that you can contact and get some support for the
Yeah.
things that I needed. So
Yeah.
I've used it a couple of times, and I'm grateful for that
Yeah.
opportunity to have done that.
Having someone who's not biased in your own
Yes.
world. I think I used to be one of those that would say, well, I don't need to go to counseling because I have my family. I'm very close with my family. My mom, my sister, my everybody that I can go talk to. And all that is true. And I'm very fortunate to have that support system. But there is something about being able to talk to someone who does not have that bias walking in the door, who doesn't know you all the way through and through, and is getting to be truly just there in the space with you and helping you navigate it. The other thing I will say about our EAP is how quick you can get in. I'm sorry, out in the community, it's tough trying to get an appointment. Sometimes you're waiting weeks to get in for an initial consult kind of thing. But with our EAPs, at least for me, my experience was always that I could reach out, and within that same week, sometimes I had an appointment. And that is also something that's really challenging to get outside.
I think the other thing that it would be important to remind our listeners is that although we both really enjoyed the who we met with,
Yeah.
and we found that connection and we were able to share, that's also something that you need to work through personally.
Absolutely.
I would hate for somebody I'd say, hey, I recommend doing this, and they go and there wasn't a connection, and that's okay.
Right.
I think the important thing about sharing your feelings and going and talking to someone is finding the right person
Yes.
that you can talk to openly about the true person that you are, not the
Yeah.
person that you're wanting people to think that
Yes.
you are. And so I, recommend that anyone who is seeking to talk to somebody, if it doesn't work the first time, I highly recommend that you just continue to talk to somebody else. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up the first time.
Yeah.
Look, see if there is somebody else. Talk to somebody else and see if there's another connection that way.
Yeah.
Because that's the important thing, is that when you are sharing and you're wanting to work through something, that you are connected with that person.
Yeah. No, I recently talked to a therapist who told me I've fired many a therapist. And it's funny to say it that way, but truly, you have the authority, so to speak, to be able to make that decision for yourself. And sometimes it is definitely not a one size fits all. You really have to find what matches with you and your style and what you need out of that experience. And sometimes one therapist is going to work to navigate one challenge in your world, and then it's not going to fit the same way for the next. And that's okay. So I appreciate that you mentioned that.
Another thing that Georgiana brought up was a lot of the professional classes that,
Yeah.
the professional development. I have attended a lot of the classes, and I felt like every time I've gone to another training, I've learned something, not only about whatever it was that they were training on that day, but I also discovered something different about me.
Yeah.
And how, so I highly recommend going on there and taking a look and seeing what Fresno State offers. Campus encourages and wants professional development for each one of our employees. And as supervisors and managers on campus, they need to give their employees that opportunity to attend these professional developments, but also this is for all levels, right? What we do on campus is for all levels, from our leadership team to the employees on campus to attend a variety of different courses on campus.
Well, and as Georgiana said, you never know who you'll meet when you go to
right.
those spaces, when you engage in those activities. I think that piece can be just as powerful as the learning that's happening there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of kind of the places and the spaces that, we have that opportunity to go to, I know next month our podcast is going to feature Shauna Blair, who is the coordinator for major events and staff development within student involvement. Honestly, I can't think of anyone better to have this particular conversation with, because we're talking about that whole concept of belonging. And I think we've said this before, I'll say it again. We focus a lot on student belonging and connection to campus. But Shauna truly has been someone who's kind of been that warrior for encouraging connection to campus. I think she's someone who really embodies that idea of building that sense of community on campus. And she does this obviously a great deal with the students that she works with. But I'm really excited to kind of talk with her about that concept of belonging and why that's not just important for students, but why it's also important for us as staff and faculty to engage in making those connections to the campus.
Yes. I'm excited to hear what she has to say. She's,
Yeah.
As you said, she's going to be a great person to meet with and kind of pick her brain on things, right?
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, I know we've got some things talking about belonging and all the opportunities. I know there's quite a bit coming up.
Yes. So, the Fresno Grizzlies, that was a great event
Yeah.
that we partnered with on campus. So hopefully many of you were able to go out to that. I know that that's going to be something that is going to be continuing. So we're going to continue that collaboration with them and working with them, and it's a good way to do something with the family, right?
Yes.
With your
Yes.
colleagues and your family. So stay tuned. We'll be sharing more information as far as what they've got going on and what they the dates and times that we've got going forward.
Yeah.
Of course, as the Benefits and Wellness Expo that is coming up on Wednesday, September 25th from 10:30 to 1
Yes.
in the Satellite Student Union. So again, good space to go and find out all the resources in one spot. Homecoming Red Friday is going to be amazing, as it always is. We have, it's the collaboration between student affairs and
Yes.
enrollment management and athletics. It's always a big one. That one's always nice to come out. It's a busy, busy week that is coming up for sure. But we'll be out there at the kickoff and scooping ice cream, and there'll be lots of things for the students, but it's also for faculty and staff to come
Yes.
out and, get that same energy, right? So we can match the energy of our students that week. We don't need them to, be overpowering us. So we need to have that.
We need our energy too.
We need to have that same energy that day to work with them. Yes. And then, of course, we are going to definitely do
Yes.
the homecoming decorating contest.
I can't wait for this one.
That is going to be great. We have every year we seem to keep it growing and increasing our numbers in offices. We've got a great team that is putting together some things, but we really want to encourage everyone. We will provide a list of all of those offices that are participating, because we encourage everyone to go out and take a look at it. Like, they put a lot of work into this.
Yeah.
And so we want everyone to go out there and take a look at all the work that they've put into it. And
Well, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't share this, so this might be too much of a teaser for our listeners, but we're going to be looking at ways to engage you all in helping to vote on our winners this time around. So stay tuned for that information. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, because we'll be looping you in coming up soon. But I'm very excited about the homecoming decorating contest. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to go travel around to all the offices myself to check out all the school spirit.
yeah, so that'll be fun. And then just one last thing before we close is just to remember, September is Suicide Prevention Month. So, again, we need to remember to be kind.
Absolutely.
Be kind to one another and check in with one another.
Comes back to that idea of acknowledging that whole self and knowing that people are dealing with a whole lot of things we don't know. And so remembering that, even if that's just giving a little grace to the person that cut you off in traffic in the morning, not knowing what they're going through, I think we have to remember those things. It's the small things that make a big difference. Well, we also want to challenge our listeners. We heard about the Red Wave Wellness Challenge, so our challenge to you this episode is to enroll, register, build a team, to be a part of this Red Wave Wellness Challenge. We'd love to hear kind of your experience. I know Belinda and I, we're going to be getting registered, building a team, and I can't wait to see where that goes. It should be a lot of fun. We'll have to check in at our next episode to see how everybody's doing.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Bulldog State of Mind podcast. Join us for the next podcast in our series, released each month during our Red Friday celebration and available through our Fresno State Staff Assembly Executive Committee YouTube channel.